So today we are going to learn the quadratic formula. Now the quadratic formula is our fifth and final method we are going to use. This method, your function or your quadratic function must be in standard form and set equal to 0. So before we can use the quadratic formula, it has to be in standard form and set equal to 0. So it has to look like we have ax squared plus bx plus c, and it equals 0. The quadratic formula uses the a, b, and c values and plugs it in. Here is the quadratic formula. It is negative b plus n minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's really not. You gotta trust me. You gotta trust me, okay? All right. So all we're doing is we're taking the three values that are a, b, and c, and we're putting them in here and simplifying, which you guys have been simplifying all year. You can totally handle this. Okay? So here's how it's going to look. So let's say I have a function that looks like this. 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 equals 0. So previously, you could have factored this and set your factors equal to 0. But you'll notice it has a 2 on the front, which means when you factored it, you'd have to do the x and the box, right? So that's a little bit more work. We're going to do it by the quadratic formula. See how that works, okay? So when you're looking at this, first of all, remember that this is A, this is B, and this is C. One of the requirements today is I'm going to ask you to list A, B, and C on your paper. You're just going to write A equals 2, B equals 5, C equals 3. Once I see that you have the right numbers, then you're going to plug it into the quadratic formula. So we're going to start with negative b plus n minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 3, all over 2 times a, which is 2. So then I'll see how you plugged it in, and I'll know you know how to plug them in or everything goes in the right spot. The easiest way to simplify this is to first simplify underneath the square root. So you can type in your calculator or you can do it using brain power. 5 squared is 25. 4 times 2 is 8 times 3 is 24. So this is 25 minus 24 is 1. We are going to be taking the square root of 1. So then the next step, we're going to go negative 5 plus and minus. What is the square root of 1? 1. All over 2 times 2, which is 4. So now technically we have two things to simplify. We have negative 5 plus 1 divided by 4, and we have negative 5 minus 1 divided by 4. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 4, negative 1. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 4 is negative 3 over 2. Or negative 1.5. All right? So if you would have factored this one, you'd have an x, a box, that your factors equal to 0, all that stuff. Here we've plugged it in the quadratic formula, and it simplified very quickly, didn't it? Okay? This is what we're doing today. Any questions before we continue? Is there any questions? Nope? Okay. Anything you want me to clarify before we keep going? All right. Example number 1. So this is what you are doing for 8 through 22. Solve. We're going to start with 4x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals 0. So this one is already set equal to 0, right? All right. So again, I'm going to remind you up here, this is A, this is B, and this is C. But on your paper, I want to see A equals, what does A equal? B equals. Good. And C equals? Perfect. All right, now we're going to plug it in the formula. I have negative B plus and minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A, which is 4, times C, which is negative 15, all over 2 times A. So we're going to start by simplifying underneath that square root. So under that square root, I got 289. We still have to take the square root of that. Okay? So we have negative 7 plus and minus. What is the square root of 289? 17 divided by 8. Any questions? Nope. So now we're going to split it into two. We've got one that's the high road and one that's the low road. I say the high road because it's the top part. It's negative 7 plus 17 divided by 8. And I have negative 7 minus 17 divided by 8. Negative 7 plus 17 is 10. 10 divided by 8 is 5 over 4. Negative 7 minus 17 is negative 24. Negative 24 divided by 8 is negative 3. Questions? Okay. Example number 2 then. Let's change this up just a little bit. Still from the same section. Let's say we have to solve for, how about 3x squared minus 41x equals negative 110. The whole thing, yes, we have to add 110 first, right? I'm going to add 110 to both sides. That means I have 3x squared minus 41x plus 110 equals 0. So A equals what? B equals what? And C equals what? Good. You got any questions so far? All right, so now we do a negative B. Negative, and my B is negative 41, plus and minus the square root of negative 41 squared minus 4 times 3, which is A, times C, which is 110, all divided by 2 times A. All right, so underneath that square root, again, don't forget your parentheses. Oops. Thank you. 361. All right, so now you'll notice that my B part in front, I have a negative negative, so I have a negative sandwich. So what's my actual front number going to become? Good. Positive 41 plus and minus. What's the square root of 361? 19. Divided by 6. So again, I have 41 plus 19 divided by 6, and I have 41 minus 19 divided by 6. 41 plus 19 is 60. 60 divided by 6, 10. 41 minus 19, 22. 22 divided by 6, what goes into both those? 2, so we get 11 over 3. Questions? Questions. All right, let's do one more from this section before I move on. So here's example number 3. So far in all of our examples, our square root came out to be an even number. But what if it's not? So let's talk about that. Okay? So let's again solve. Excuse me. And let's go with 6x squared plus 9x equals 32. Good. I agree with Keegan. We're going to subtract 32 first. So I have 6x squared plus 9x minus 32 equals 0. So this is in standard form and set equal to 0. All right. Now, what is my A value? My B value? And my C value? Good. Let's go ahead and plug it into our quadratic formula. We have negative B plus n minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. So now we simplify under that square root. $849. Good. Again, we still need to take the square root of that, right? All right, so that's what we're going to talk about. So now we have negative 9 plus n minus. I need you to go 2 decimal places. All right, so we're going to go 29.14 divided by 12. So we technically have negative 9 plus 29.14 divided by 12. And we have negative 9 minus 29.14 divided by 12. All right, first one, negative 9 plus 29.14 is 20.14, and we divide by 12. $1.68. This one, negative 9 minus 29.14 is negative 38.14 divided by 12. What did you guys get? 178, right? And we're going to round it up? Okay. So here's one of the things I want to talk about. If you decide to put this in your calculator, okay, which is fine, you can do that. Remember that you have to either hit enter and then divide by 12, or you have to put parentheses around the top. If you don't, you're smarter than your calculator, and your calculator would think you're only dividing the 29 by 12 and not the whole top. Okay? So you can hit enter and then divide by 12, or you can put parentheses around the top. Either way is fine with me. All right? Questions? We're all good so far? Okay. All right. Next thing I want to talk about. I want to go to example number 4. Oh, gosh, no. Good try, though. Example number 4. I want to talk about 24 through 28. And at the same time, we are also going to cover 36 through 40. Then we'll come back to that missing section in just a little bit. Solve by any method. All right. So in 24 through 28, it's just going to ask you what method would you solve by and why. Don't have to solve it. It just wants to know what method and why. And 36 through 40, you have to solve it by whatever method you want. Okay? No. No, you just got to explain the first one. So, let's go with something like this. Let's say I have 2x squared plus x minus 3 equals 0. So we got to decide what method we want. All right? Now, the square root method, can we use that here? No, why? Because we have a b term, so we can't use the square root method. Is it possible to factor this? Yes, but you have to do an x in a box. Is it possible to do this by completing the square? No, why not? It gives you the c value, but we can move that over. What did you guys notice about all of them on your worksheet the last 2 days? What was your leading coefficient on all of the completing the squares? It was 1. Is it here? So we can't do completing the square. So square root method and completing the square out. So you have to choose between factoring, quadratic formula. What way do we want to do it? You want to factor and you want to do the quadratic formula. So let's start off by doing the quadratic formula. So we have a equals 2, b equals 1, and c equals negative 3. So I have negative b, so negative 1 plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So underneath that square root, I have 1 plus 24, or 25. So I have negative 1 plus and minus 5 over 4. So I have negative 1 plus 5 divided by 4, and I have negative 1 minus 5 divided by 4. All right, negative 1 plus 5 is 4. Good. Move that. No, take that far. My bad. There we go. And negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. Divided by 4, negative 3 over 2. Or negative 1.5. Now, I want to quickly, for those of you that would have chose to do it by factoring, it's not a wrong choice. Let's factor it as well. So I would draw my x. Last number times the first would be negative 6. Middle number is 1. The sides would be 3 and negative 2. I would draw my box. First term in the box is 2x squared. Last term in the box would be negative 3. My diagonal would be 3x and negative 2x. What can I take out of the top line? What can I take out of the bottom line? What can I take up and down? And what can I take out up and down in the second one? Positive 3. So I have 2x plus 3, and I have x minus 1. What do I do with those now? Set them equal to 0, and we solve them. Here I would subtract 3 from both sides. So I get 2x equals negative 3. Divide both sides by 2. X equals negative 3 over 2. Here I add 1 to both sides, and x equals 1. Is that the same answer as we got doing it the other way? Yeah. Is there a right and wrong way to do it? You can use either way, okay? All right, last section I want to talk about. we have what we call the discriminant. The discriminant is what's underneath the square root. So it is b squared minus 4ac. If when you do that value, it is greater than 0, so it's a positive number, you have two solutions, right? Your parabola is crossing that x-axis in two spots. If when you do b squared minus 4ac, it equals 0, that means you have one solution. And what that means is it's coming down and just touching the x-axis and going back up, right? And if when we do b squared minus 4ac, it's less than 0 or a negative number, that's no real solution. Can't square root a negative number, I agree. And that would have a parabola that doesn't cross the x-axis anywhere, right? Okay, so that being said, the last section we have to talk about, so example number 5, thank you. Section 30 through 34. Find the number of real solutions. And let's say you are given 9x squared plus 12x plus 4 equals 0. All right, so what is my A value in here? B value and C value. All right, we're going to put it into b squared minus 4ac. So we have 12 squared minus 4 times A times C. 12 squared is 144. 4 times 9 times 4 is 144. Which means we get 0. How many solutions does that mean? There is one solution. All right, so that's what you're going to say is one solution. That's all you have to do for that little section. Okay? Any question? Here's what I recommend. I would, if I were you, at the top of your paper, write down your quadratic formula. Okay? So you have it to refer to while you're doing your homework. You are required to write down A, B, and C, and you're required to write down how it went into the quadratic formula. All right? No. Nope. Because you might be solving by a different method. You don't have to worry about it. You're just explaining what you would do.